Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome.
How's everybody doing today? This is Attorney Antonio Moore coming to you from Tone Talks. I want to have a very important discussion today about Jackson, Mississippi, about our politicians, about even Black celebrity. I feel like the reality of why I did the project around reparations, the reality of how ADOS comes off of my project and Yvette's project is getting lost on the reality of what happens when you allow us to be splintered off of it. Because I would be in Jackson, Mississippi if I had the undergirding of what I was on my way toward before it got diffused. Let's talk about it. But if you diffuse it, it's your job to go down there. You can't be in Pakistan. And when I say that, I'm talking to Sheila Jackson Lee, who basically took that energy from ADOS and me and Yvette show, and then acted like it came from HR 40, which had no support from Congress before ADOS, and now is in Pakistan. That's not your political charge. You got to be in Mississippi. And if you didn't understand that before this video, hopefully you understand it after, because it is my job to respectfully pressure you. You got Kamala talking about labor unions. Can we talk about it? I understand it's Labor Day, but every day is Black politics when you have something going on like what we see in Jackson, Mississippi. But it's not just Jackson. We have talked about it for years. It is Loudoun County, Alabama. It is so many places across this country that suffer where Black folks live. You got Serena Williams. She got a speech. I didn't hear Jackson, Mississippi in her speech. She don't have to do it, but if she don't do it, you guys have to make her feel that. Either you're going to support yourself or you're not. Can we talk about it? Yes, sir. She had all them diamonds on. You know, you had a white person, I believe a showrunner from Showtime, say, it balanced everything out, her winning. You know, you got her winning, and then on the other side, I think it was something about Trump or something, and it's a balance. Well, that's what they do. They take aberrations and they avoid the reality of Black politics. Let me say that again. They take aberrations and they avoid the reality of ADOS Black politics. Now, you got to decide whether you're going to let that happen or not. Now, I'm not talking about wild action. I'm talking about organized, planned action. Let's get to it. Happy Labor Day to everybody. So getting right to the discussion, we're talking about the issues being faced, the water crisis being faced by our brothers and sisters in Jackson, Mississippi. I have family in Brooksville, Mississippi. You know, it's in Mississippi, but a bit further away. I've traveled to Mississippi. In many ways, Mississippi represents the heartbeat of ADOS life. For those people that have not traveled that route, have not run into Mississippi, you don't really understand ADOS life until you go down there. It's like going in a time machine. Now, I'm not here to chastise you for not going down there, but what I will say is in some ways, you might not understand it till you see it. Thank you so much for the support to the people that are already supporting the channel, because we are having this discussion and we're going to be productive this morning. We're not going to do no name calling. We're not going to talk about Latinos and Blacks rapping. We're going to have a productive, mature discussion. We're not going to talk about Jay-Z and capitalism today in the middle of a water crisis in Mississippi. Let me say that again. We're not going to talk about hip hop in the middle of a water crisis in Mississippi. But you can go other places and see that. What we're going to talk about is what these politicians done did here. So I'm going to share tweets, and that's going to allow me to get to the discussion that I want to. I'm going to take calls, 310-388-3499, and I want you to be able to have a place to vent. And we're also going to go through a couple articles as well. In so many ways, Mississippi is more flashpoint. Jackson, Mississippi is more flashpoint than just singular catastrophic event. It is a marker of the reality and the consequence of not having a reparative justice movement anchored in ADOS. We don't need no studies. We need wealth today. Let me say that again. We don't need any studies. I don't need you to study whether the levee will break. I don't need you to study whether that faucet is pouring brown water. I don't need you to manage my wealth and give me no $25,000 grant for a house, roof, or something like that. I need you to look at this multi-trillion-dollar debt and start paying on what you owe. Can we talk about it? But you can't do that if you're in Pakistan or you're in Ghana trying to argue for global reparations. You can't do that if you are Kamala Harris and you are avoiding the reality of the need to be in Mississippi, but you were there at that border. They made you the czar of that border. Let's talk about it. People are trying to discuss Jackson, Mississippi. This is a tweet I did a few days ago. People are trying to discuss Jackson, Mississippi as a Black issue. It's more nuanced with history. This is an American descendant of slavery issue. Now, that's not about being divisive. What happens is if you make it about color, and far too many of your people that are your color, Indian, African, brown, and they got here in like 1990, it becomes a present issue. When you make it about American descendant of slavery, first is accurate because that's what it is in Mississippi for those people that haven't gone. This isn't Los Angeles or New York. But you also tie it to the consequence of cyclical actions by white folks in Mississippi. You bring it to a level where it is unavoidable. See, Black is avoidable now because it's too general as a term anymore. You can keep using it if you want. You got people online talking about, I don't want to be called Black and brown, but then still use the word Black as if that ain't Black and brown again. Let's get to it. I want to hear you talk about it. Now, I put it in terms of a chart. This chart breaks America down into quarters. Let's zoom in so you can see the chart. I want to make sure we don't miss it. 1600, 1700, 1800, 1900. We are talking about people, we are talking about my family in Mississippi that has been disenfranchised, that has been shut out for hundreds of years. We are not talking about people that are brown that got here on their own volition right here when everything was a lot better and school loans was being offered. It is important to make that important distinction because this policy demand is not you giving me anything. It is me demanding what you owe me. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it today because if you don't get that part right first, then you're begging. But if you get that part first, you can galvanize a group of Black folks, ADOS Black folks that are owed trillions. Living in a city with no water, this is unbearable. The entire city of more than 150,000 was without safe drinking water. I want you to understand, as I understand it, this is a majority Black city. We'll get into the specific numbers in a second. But this is a majority Black city. The entire city of more than 150,000 was without safe drinking water. Now, we're going to read that article, but before we read that article, we're going to look at Sheila Jackson Lee. I went to her Twitter and I said, oh, Sheila's in Mississippi real fast. When I looked, but I zoomed in and she's in Pakistan. This is yesterday. I did a cursory review of her Twitter and I didn't see no mentions of Jackson, Mississippi. I looked over at Kamala's Twitter for the last few days. I ain't seen nothing about Jackson, Mississippi. Are we avoiding Jackson because of the midterms? Because these people got to drink before then. They got to shower before then. They need water before then. These ADOS Black folks are owed trillions and being left in the bottom of the world. But Sheila Jackson Lee is in Pakistan. You wonder where global reparations takes you. It takes you to a world where globalists take over your reparations. When I seen Sheila Jackson Lee in Pakistan, I was offended. So I started tweeting, and I want to go through some of those tweets. I started tweeting and asking the question, why is a local U.S. Congresswoman, Jackson Lee, this is her Twitter, who heads HR 40, which is the reparations study that took the energy from ADOS and then, I don't know, kind of just diffused it, who heads HR 40 reparation in Pakistan, when she should be in Jackson, Mississippi, demanding water for ADOS. Not just water bottles, but water infrastructure. Reparations was about changing the political position of black folks, ADOS black folks, taking us from the bottom to the top. You can't have people take that from me and ask me no more questions. I need y'all to see it. I need y'all to see it. They diffused it. They didn't create no energy, went out and diffused it. So go ask your politician that's in the news for being in Pakistan, why she in Pakistan. Or watch your auntie or your grandmama go without water in Mississippi. I need y'all to see what's going on. Living in a city with no water, this is unbearable. The entire city of more than 150,000, largely ADOS, I think it's like 60% plus ADOS, after white flight, was without safe drinking water with no end in sight. Many residents here say they adapted long ago to catastrophic government failure. Jackson's waters been messed up. I don't even feel like they should be issuing people bills, said Rashonda Snell, 32, who works at a local hotel. It's infected and you can't even do nothing with it. Snell is a beneficiary of the Federal Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Some of y'all don't know about it, all those words, SNAP. And says she has been using most of the money she received. So she gets the SNAP and she's using the SNAP to buy water. Where is Sheila Jackson Lee? She in Pakistan. She is in Pakistan. Let's see what she handing out in Pakistan. It look like water. Snacks and food, and condolences to those families. But I need the lady that decided to take over the energy that I had created from my project to be in Jackson, Mississippi, and not in Pakistan. Y'all allowed people to take this and start talking about Latinos and hip hop. There is a level of education here. There is a political science level of education here. This is not the moment to be talking about no tennis or no Latinos and hip hop. This is the moment to galvanize around people not having drinking water where my family lives. Let's talk about it. But y'all gonna let people that don't know much talk a lot. Snell is a beneficiary of SNAP and using her SNAP to buy water for her family for a while. I spend about $200 on bottled water every month. That's mainly what I use that money for, to buy 5 big cases of water for the month. So she's using SNAP to be her own government because government didn't provide infrastructure. But y'all watching the NBA, the NFL. And when does the NFL start? All y'all know that it starts next week. The Romans, when they didn't give them aqueducts, they gave them games. Let me say it again. When the Romans didn't give the population aqueducts, they gave them games. What do you think is going on here? Avoiding the tap water. In Jackson, Mississippi has been a way of life for decades. Let me take the first caller tonight. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling out of Philly, man. Definitely on fire today on Labor Day, man. But I appreciate the work you're putting in. this is just horrible, man. I mean, like you say, we have black politicians, but we don't have black politics. I mean, the fact that, these people can go all around the world and advocate for better living conditions and use that as their platform and use that to be called the soul of the Congress or the soul of the country or the soul of
when you say these people, let's be specific. You talking about the Black Caucus and what they talk about, that they're the conscience of the nation or something of the sort. Let me say something else. When I started this project, I didn't start this to talk about reparations. You asked me for a solution, so I galvanized my audience. I took my audience and galvanized it with the events audience and created a synergy. And ADOS is simply just our shows. But what I believe is that what old black folks was telling us, black boomers that have been done lived their lives, is y'all young people ain't in politics. So if I gave y'all, the young people, you would actually go to Biden and say, I don't want to talk about nothing but reparations. But instead what you said is y'all came too fast and too hard. Hold on. Let me diffuse that and make it a study. Not a study, hold on. An idea that we may do a study if Biden decides to listen and maybe talk about a study. But wait, Native Americans get free UCLA today. Let me say that again for those people out of the state. Today, UCs are free if you're Native American tuition. But that's not divisive. But let me say who it's not free for. The black slaves of the Native Americans. You know how we know? Because they didn't even get a coronavirus shot. Jim Crow today. If you're a descendant of a slave in them tribes, you couldn't get the coronavirus shot. So I doubt you could get the UC's tuition. We can't do politics because when we do politics with nothing but your donations, it gets diffused and handed over. Why is this woman in Pakistan? Now, I'm not saying her being in Jackson fixes that water, but it allows for an anchoring of the case that this is bigger than just water. This is everything you need to survive. Keep going, caller.
Well, the fact that she's in Pakistan, that's not necessarily a problem in itself. I mean, if that's where she was, that's where she was. But the fact that
no, it's a problem. It's a problem. I'm not gonna let that slide. I'm sorry, bro. This is hey, it is a huge problem. Not just this is a local congresswoman. I want you to understand. This is not the vice president. Understand? I want you to go to Jackson right now and look for a Pakistan high-level official walking around Jackson, Mississippi. This is a local congresswoman, but also I don't even want to hear the back and forth. Like you can go back, you can just keep going. I just want to make this point for the audience, and it's gonna stand on this. I don't mean to disrespect you. What I'm saying to you is that once you make yourself the face of reparations, that's your charge. That's your call. Now you can say something else, but I'm not gonna let the it's okay to be a Pakistan thing slide. But go ahead. No disrespect.
I think that she should definitely be using her platform to advocate and bring attention to what's going on in Jackson, Mississippi, and trying to develop some sort of solutions for Jackson, Mississippi. Again, I think that should be the priority. You know what I'm saying? Is that trying to develop those solutions. And I think that's the sad thing.
Agreed.
That's the sad thing to me. Like, and I was waiting for you to go into some of those tweets because I really wanted to see some of the responses to that. But I definitely feel as though, it's really saddening to see that there's this crisis going on. But again, it's a snapshot. It's like we spoke of earlier. It's really a snapshot on where we would be without the political scraps that we're given in like certain inner cities. Like if we were left to our own devices in the political climate that we see in Jackson, Mississippi, they lost communities throughout the country would be in the same situation.
And they are. You look at Loudoun County, you look at Flint. This is not just Jackson. Caller, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much. You always support. You're always a great caller. I didn't mean any disrespect, but no. We're not going to have that where we play the conscience because you just said that about. See, we've been so ingrained with the idea that we the conscience that we think this is actually relatively okay. Ain't nothing okay about this. Now, that's my opinion, but there's nothing okay with making yourself the face of a reparative justice movement after I anchored this with Yvette, and we got all these people listening, and we ready to do some politics, and then you say, well, we're going to do a study, but hold on, they can't do the study right now, and then you ain't even in Jackson when it's time to be in Jackson. But then we are cut off by all of this energy saying that we don't talk about COVID, and we rushing disinformation. Come on. You got to go down there. I'm sorry. Ain't my job to be in Pakistan. And I'll say it again. Please show me the Pakistan official that's not in Pakistan moving rocks for their people down there. Condolences to their people. Can we talk? But then we have a bigger thing. Is this about the midterms? Is this a political thing where we want to avoid upsetting that middle white voter by doing things that address the needs of black folks in Mississippi? Avoiding the tap water in Jackson, Mississippi has been a way of life for decades. The Sykes Park Community Center got a large filter 6 months ago to purify water for local residents to pick up. We just don't do it periodically. We do it every single day, says Jason Page, a youth mentor with the group Strong Arms, who speaks as he directs traffic in and out of the parking lot. The Jackson water has been messed up for a while now. I want everybody to understand what that's saying. The community center is filtering water. Now, we don't even know if the community center is using government level filters, but you know where you see that? Developing countries. So you got people living like they're in developing countries in America today, and Sheila Jackson Lee is in Pakistan and Kamala is talking about unions. And you guys do not understand the gravity of what we were doing with the reparative justice movement we were anchoring. Chess, not checkers. We're not here to talk about Latinos and hip hop. We're not here to talk about Serena Williams retiring. We are here to talk about the consequence of what happens if ADOS black folks don't correct their politics. A week after more than 160,000 residents lost their water, it's still not clear when the city's primary water treatment plant, O.B. Curtis, will be back up. But even when that happens, people here say the larger crisis will not be over. Jackson water has been unreliable and unsafe for decades. Many residents accuse the state government of neglecting the needs of a city that's 82% black. 82% black. And those tensions, along with Jackson's shrunken tax base, pose a challenge to any lasting solution. 310-388-3499. I want to hear from you. This is your place to vent. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, City West North. How are you?
I'm fine. You got the floor, North.
So yeah, I kind of go back to the call previously. Like, if that mindset is the same type of mess.
What mindset? What mindset? What mindset? Explain that.
The mindset that I'm talking about is one of just total delusion. Okay, I don't want to start cursing, but that's where it's about to go, because I'm just tired of the BS. That same mindset that allows people to get on Twitter and you possibly ADOS and you talk about doing some rainwater. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Are you serious? You don't talk about doing rainwater when you have a whole infrastructure that's jacked up and they need to do something for the people in that damn state about their water. Like, you can't take a bath. You can't drink the water. You understand? You drink that water, there's dysentery. There's possibly death if you drink that water. A doctor will tell you that. Or are you just that dumb and blind that you don't want to see what the hell is going on with people that have the same lineage as you? Are you mad?
Come on. Now let me ask you another question. Let me ask you another question, because I'm gonna keep it brief with you, because you come in. You ever seen Angela Bassett in Waiting to Exhale when she walk away from that car? That's you. With the car on fire, that's you. ADOS, North. I'm gonna ask you something. What do you think about Sheila Jackson Lee being in Pakistan?
Oh yeah. But then I've already got all over her. Okay, I went right to her Twitter. and let her know you should have never been in office in the first place. Okay, you running off to Pakistan. Okay, but you haven't done anything about your own state. So what would make anybody think that you're going to do anything about Jackson, Mississippi? None of these little tactics that she's using, I'm not surprised by that. Why are you still here? Why are you still here?
And Adolf North, what I was trying to explain, I actually say that it was productive he called in, because he calls it all the time. I appreciate the support. What makes it productive is it's a teaching moment. It's not just that you have a politician. These are not all this is a local politician. She was elected by like a small number of people, I believe, in Texas. She then made herself the face, and I believe she's not Adolf, so I believe both parents are Jamaican. In and of itself, I don't have a problem with that, but I think that you now have a specific obligation to meet to Adolf's people, because you made yourself the face of reparations. You had to. This is not day one of the incident. You just happened to be in Pakistan. You should have already been back here, because you need to connect it, because you took that ball out of our hands. You took it out of me and Yvette's hands and diffused it and made it about a study that you don't have no connection to get done. And then it don't make no sense, no way, because other people are getting real things today. You made it about divisiveness because it's about reparations for all Africans that are African in a world or in America. No, it is about ADOS. But you then don't want to be there when the consequence happens, when the water is brown. Adolf, North, any last thing you want to say?
Last thing I want to say is, like you keep y'all need to stop playing with y'all. I'm not happy with this. Like y'all, if you won't call it the show, have enough sense to know what you're talking about. Have enough sense to be adulting and not talk about being in Pakistan. Like, that's okay. Y'all need to stop playing with y'all. That's all I gotta say. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support, and thank you for calling in. You know, much of this will be used for our current litigation that's going on, as you know. I'm looking at this thing, and I'm looking at all of the truths around it, and we have Biden declaring an emergency over Mississippi water crisis, but he didn't do it in a fiery speech like he did about the Republicans the other day. We need a fiery speech, but we can't get a fiery speech without a galvanized group pressuring him. But that's what ADOS is, and was blocked from being. And when I say ADOS, I'm talking about, again, particularly me and Yvette shows. If you look at the view counts and how they came down. They don't tell my 80,000 people no more the last year, huh? They don't tell them that I'm on no more, huh? My belief was that all we needed was what old black boomers were telling us, some young people to get involved. But when we get involved, we don't have a house, we don't have retirement, we don't have no health insurance, so we getting involved loud and angry. But y'all can't be angry. Oh, you didn't tell us that part. Biden declares emergency over Mississippi water crisis. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration approved an emergency declaration over a water crisis in the state of Mississippi and ordered federal assistance late on Tuesday to supplement the state's response. Emergency protective measures, including direct federal assistance, will be provided at 75% federal funding for a period of 90 days, the White House said in a statement. The White House said in a statement. What did Biden say? Where is Biden's statement? The midterms is coming. We can't offend the white voter that did not elect him. I say it again. It is the black vote that put Biden in office. It is the black vote that put Warnock in office. It is the black vote that Kamala leveraged to become VP. That is our administration, and we have took no claim for it. And ADOS was going to be the way to wedge a political knife into the center of the Democratic Party to take our party back. And they diffused it. Do you understand? Why is local U.S. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, who heads H.R. 40, the reparations bill, in Pakistan when she should be in Jackson, Mississippi? She said, I was joined by Congressman Tom Suozzi of New York as we were briefed by the military rescuers. We saw people still racing to helicopters to be rescued, as well as met and listened to the men and women and children who are experiencing the raging deadly waters. Now, condolences to those families. But I need you in Jackson, Mississippi. Huh? I need you to talk about it. I'm going to talk about Leo Carney. How many of y'all in the chat heard of Leo Carney? We're going to talk about him later. We've been in Mississippi. ADOS with no budget, just these shows have pushed people in Mississippi to be part of media, to be trying to do some politics. But then we got to deal with y'all doing too much, rocking the boat, asking for what you're owed. Well, what happens if you don't get what you're owed is Jackson. Whew. Somebody said Leo is his cousin or her cousin. Shout out to Princess. We're going to talk about him in a second because I got to give Leo's down there in Mississippi doing good work. We've been talking about infrastructure with Louds County. How many people remember? Let me go forward because I just want to front. How many people remember when, and you guys don't see the backdrop, when me and Yvette planned this out and had her do a show? Y'all don't know that we planned who's going to talk to Cube and who's going to talk to the hookworms issue and tweet Terry Sewell, or who's going to talk to Monique versus who's going to talk to Byron Allen. We sit down and we talk about it. Y'all don't understand how you watching nonsense about Latino rap has led to you having no water. So you had Yvette Carnell in 2017 tell Terry Sewell that her district don't have sewage infrastructure. As a result, Terry Sewell starts pressuring, come on, this is the rep down there, a local rep, no different than Sheila Jackson Lee, but she in her district. She pressures Paul, and then she ends up, and as you see now, from 2017 to 20, some grants go down there to solve the sewage for Louds. But what if we could do that for the whole nation and all the black folks through reparations? Chess, not checkers. We're going to talk about Brett Favre, Shamar. Everybody know about Brett Favre and that fraud down there in Mississippi? We got some show to get to. 310-388-3499. The queue is filling up, but I'm going to keep going. Condolences to the family that lost loved ones in Pakistan. But you can't be the face of HR 40 reparations and be in Pakistan when Jackson, Mississippi doesn't have drinking water. We need that person making the case for reparations and demanding basic government for ADOS. That is the position. And as Yvette says, that is your charge. If you remember, we were covered by ABC, January 2020. In 2020, we got all this coverage. But in 2021, after that paper came out, it just fell off the cliff because that paper shuts everything down from Harvard. That's the top of America, and saying that you guys are like right wing and COVID-19 naysayers, and yeah, you're done. It does not fix it to retract it. I need you to fix it by bellowing from the top of the mountain that this is the legitimate group. This is the people who are just trying to do politics. It does not fix it to retract it in the mid of night on Christmas Eve or right before. A year later, a year of no energy, no coverage, no nothing because of that. I need you to talk. Controversial group, ADOS divides Black Americans in fight for economic equality. This is the ABC coverage a year before that. Next to it, I have a tweet I just put out. Again, people are trying to discuss Jackson, Mississippi as a Black issue. It's more nuanced with history. This is an American descendant of slavery issue. We have been telling you there is a cost for years. This is a sign of that cost no longer hiding. # ADOS. This is an article from the Washington Post that we shared earlier that we just spoke about. But I want to frame what I keep saying about reparations, because a lot of people that are in here might be new and they don't know. They think Ta-Nehisi Coates or Nicole Hannah-Jones had some hand in it, or Black Lives Matter that wasn't even in their premise. They're not even talking about what we're talking about. This is all ADOS. I'll explain in a second. So when you look at reparations, this is the support. Now, the reason that this kind of got made is you don't know, but like a few weeks before, I talked to the Wall Street Journal, and they asked about reparations, and I explained to them there is no reparations movement without me and that Yvette Carnell, period. Because nobody was talking about it. I only came to it because you kept asking me for a solution, because I was giving you the realities of what Piketty was saying about wealth inequality, of what I was finding on inequality.org. So the solution was reparations, and then I galvanized my audience around that, and that's why y'all talking about it now. Yvette did the same with politics, and we came together. You can see it with the support for reparations dies out after Obama. It dies out after Coates' article. It boosts right when ADOS, me and Yvette Carnell, start telling people to do things politically around this nation and galvanize it right before the 2020 election around reparations. Reparations for Black Americans gains new momentum. Now, they didn't add this red part, but I added this so you can see. Well, let me say, someone added it on the internet so you can see how this grew. So all the support came after. So the support came from our shows. Let me say, so everybody understands. There's a video, and I might cut a short clip in here, of people that followed our shows going to politicians and demanding a discussion around reparations. Kamala, Bernie, even Elizabeth Warren. But Elizabeth Warren raises her hand. She says, I've been in for the beginning. And what she's talking about is HR 40, which allows her to avoid the discussion yet again. But nonetheless, these other people weren't in. And because of what we did, the shows informed the people were sent, the people respectfully went to these different events and demanding an answer, they all jumped on board. But when they jumped on board, Sheila Jackson Lee, talk about it, acted like she created the energy and took the credit and then diffused what we was talking about. We're not talking about just studying for 10 years. These people have no water today, and we want that fixed. We want them to have wealth where they're not on SNAP, using SNAP to pay for water bottles. So all this support is ADOS, then we just diffuse all the parts of the politics and the stuff, y'all, the wealth inequality, and we just kind of like, we need Biden elected, so Trump gets out. Never Trump. I need y'all to see what happened here. It's right here. It's right here. Black politicians got caught in an ADOS wave and diffused the energy. It is my show and Breaking Ground show that led to a revolution in Black political thought. That energy was splintered, and now no one is making the reparative justice case in Jackson, Mississippi. ADOS voters question presidential candidates on the Black agenda. Candidate. That's the business.
Excuse us, sir.
Senator Harris, what about reparations? What about reparations, Senator Harris? Senator Harris, what about reparations? What about reparations? Senator Harris.
Never want to talk to Black people.
Well, let me tell you something. If you wait on tax payments to come out of reparations, you're going to wait forever. It's not going to be.
Question about reparations. Senator Sanders. Can you get off me? I'm walking. I can walk myself. Hey, don't touch me.
Hey, your phone? I always told, shut up, don't worry about it. No, this is really our issues need to be talked about. So no one talks about Black Americans. You say you're here to talk to Black Americans. There are already no Black people here. Charleston's 50% Black. No. Because we don't trust you. I'm trying to ask a question.
Can I ask you for your advice?
Yes.
What's the best way? Because
I sent you 35 emails. Y'all don't respond. I was trying to send them an email. Y'all don't respond. I sent you 35 emails. Info@People America. None of y'all responded to me.
Let's stay engaged, because this is on my mind a lot. And I actually believe if you came to South Bend, you would see the work we've been doing together. You're right, we haven't reversed racial inequity.
So how can I trust you to do it as the president?
But I think we've made it better than it was when I arrived. And you can talk to black people in South Bend, and some people will agree and some people won't. But I think if you gave me a fair shot, I think you would see that whether you're going to be for me or not, I'm going to be for you.
I hope you respond to my email. I sent you 35 emails about these same issues. I didn't want to...
Senator Warren, what about reparations? Senator Warren, what about reparations?
That's the video. I want everybody to slow down and understand what I'm proposing. That the energy for the people that would be down there was diffused and instead was recycled down to Sheila Jackson Lee. And it's our job to tell her she should not supposed to be in Pakistan. Now, you do it respectfully. You don't have to call her no names, no nothing like that. I need you to take part in the politics past voting. You have the right to demand of your politicians that they be your politicians. I'm not a politician. You don't have that same right with me, but you had that right once you got elected. You don't have to be the conscience for Pakistan. You can send condolences without sending your leader of your HR 40. Let me say that again. You can send condolences and prayers without sending the leader of your HR 40 reparations. Can we talk? 310-388-3499. As a citizen, it is our job and right to respectfully, and I want to zoom in on this because I want y'all to see what I got up here. Pressure politicians. It is our job and right to respectfully pressure politicians. What shouldn't happen is avoiding the demand with illusion. I'll talk about the illusion earlier, when I brought up what happened. If we allow that, we end up with Jackson water crisis facing us and a black VP in Kamala Harris discussing labor unions on national TV instead of the immediate crisis. I don't care that it's Labor Day. You better find a way to talk about Jackson, because the only reason you're the VP is because of ADOS black folks throughout the South being a threat to Biden's presidency. You're not VP because of labor unions. You leveraged South Carolina, dropped out, and then Clyburn came in, talked about the black vote, and then galvanized you and put you right in position. Kamala Harris displays as much passion as Joe Biden has for transforming the character of labor relations in a country where unions have been let down by both Republicans. So Jackson going on, and we talking about this. I went through her Twitter. I ain't seen no Jackson. How is the first black female VP? Again, not ADOS, but they told us that was divisive. I think that we go back to the article by Valerie Russ in the Philadelphia Inquirer. What was put out before people got involved, like a Nicole Hannah-Jones, who reframed it around, I don't know what she was talking about, honestly. Reframed it around blackness test or something. No, we said in the article title says, it's not about whether you're black or not. It's about whether you're going to do something for black issues. How about that? Shout out to real media out there. This is an article from 2020 from Leo Carney, part of ADOS, been doing the work down there in Mississippi. This issue runs deeper than just Jackson. It's the whole state where black folks live. Repairing racist inequities. Who are really Mississippi's unincorporated? I'm gonna read this article because we're all talking about Jackson and we have no historical context nor present day reality of Mississippi, let alone Jackson. And I want to make sure we get a little more informed. All of these articles are available on the internet. You can go Google them to actually see the whole articles. Many of them are free. Some are behind paywalls. I believe this is a free one. Leo Carney, a chef in Biloxi, Mississippi, is the co-founding member of ADOS of Mississippi by way of Yvette Cardell and Antonio Moore, founders of ADOS. For those people that don't know, I'm Antonio Moore. He's a columnist for Mississippi Free Press. Follow him on Twitter. So this is our project put into work by a young black man. That is what we were galvanizing when we said reparations and then got diffused and then got talked about with HR 40. Historically, Mississippi has always shared an autonomous exclusivity in the United States of America. Come on, Leo. What did he say? Leo got some words. Velvety. The Magnolia State was born out of chattel slavery. That is what I'm saying to you when I say this isn't a black issue. When you have a new population of blacks that are 20 years into the country, them and their children, you then have to talk about splintering how you talk about black folks. That's just where we're at now. This issue in Jackson is an ADOS issue. It's not a black and brown issue. It's not a black issue. It is an ADOS issue. The Magnolia State was born out of chattel slavery and was officially brought into the Union in 1817. The white population in Mississippi in the whole state is 59%. That's why a lot of the politics is dominated by white folks. While the black population, which I refer to as American Descendants of Slavery or ADOS, is 37.8%. Agriculture remains the cash crop of Mississippi's economy. However, black-run farms on average remain far smaller than those of their white counterparts. A lot of the black families, including my own, have sold their property. I believe that there's Amish all around our property now. American descendants of slavery in Mississippi have historically experienced discriminatory governance, resource extraction, and environmental racism. A 2012 United States Department of Agriculture study stated that out of 54,971 farm operators in Mississippi, only 6,627 were black. And this is the main state where we doing farming. The continued land grab by big agribusiness, the Teachers Insurance and Annuity Association owns one of the largest pension firms in the United States. It has a portfolio of more than 80,000 acres of Mississippi farmland alone. Most of their acquisitions have been in the Delta region. So they're going in and buying these family farmland, holding more than 130,000 acres along the Mississippi River. Black soybean farmers in LaFleur County are now competing with bioengineered products that are cultivated with laser-guided tractors and crop dusting drones. Hancock Agriculture and Investment Group manages more than 65,000 acres in the Delta. In Washington County, TIAA, this is ADOS. To go from a national discussion of wealth inequality, to inform a population that you can do politics, a population largely under 45, and then it allows them to dig into their communities. And y'all let that get diffused. And we got to be in litigation just to get our names back. Americans in slavery in Washington County make up 72% of the population and own less than 11% of the farmland. We're talking about Mississippi when we say Washington County. County governments are mainly micromanagers that work on behalf of the state and the county constituents. They do not work on behalf of individual unincorporated residents. Unincorporated, not part of a county. Local incorporated governments rely on their local constituents as their tax base. When local governments annex unincorporated areas, the pattern has been to annex wealthy white communities to increase their tax base, cut them into smaller groups. American descendants of slavery who find themselves living in unincorporated communities in Mississippi are being faced with discriminatory policies, including housing disparities, land and mineral theft. These communities do not have a mayor, city council, local fire department, or local police department. If this is happening in Jackson, what you think is happening in these unincorporated areas? Again, written by Leo Carney. Go check the whole piece out. Don't just get caught up in Jackson. Understand that it's the unincorporated areas in Mississippi. Understand that it's Louds County. Understand that as Yvette did here, with nothing more than your donations, you can affect change on policy. 2017, we're calling on Sewell to fix the sewage of these homes that are having the same issues as we're seeing in Jackson. 2022, it looks like they're saying the sewage issue is solved. We're dealing with a Harvard lawsuit where we were defamed, myself and Yvette Carnell, and our work product, ADOS, and they retracted it because it was so bad. It was so bad that they admitted that there was a failure of their editorial process. So Harvard, the top school in America or possibly in the world, had a failure of its editorial process. If you read the filing, there's a lot of questions. We'll figure it out. Harvard sued for defamation by Black activists and ADOS creators, Tone Talks, and Yvette Carnell. We're in the early stages, and as our counsel, Lance Filer, has stated. I said this about Sheila Jackson Lee. Come on, we coming through this. I'm not gonna hold you long. Had some great calls already. 310-388-3499. I said Sheila Jackson Lee, when I say she, may go to Mississippi this next week. I'm talking about this week now. But that's too late. She needed to be there now, yesterday, day before, last week, for the last week. Does everyone understand why that's the case? We're coming back to her being the head of HR 40 to make the reparative justice argument immediately and consistently. To contrast that to the aid given in Pakistan or the aid given in Ukraine for the war, or the delegation that went down to Pakistan. Because if you're not part of it, you can say, why is there no delegation in Jackson? But if you're in the delegation in Pakistan, you can't really say that because you was handing out cookies and snacks yourself. So you can't even make the argument we need to make. The argument basically saying condolences to those families, but this delegation shouldn't be in Pakistan. It should be in Jackson because you handing out cookies and snacks. Those people don't need cookies and snacks by a lady taking pictures. Let me say that again as well. These people that are dealing with a raging storm don't need a photo op of her handing out cookies and snacks. They are dealing with a raging storm. This is not time for political opera. Can we talk? Can we get to it? But she did have time for something, though. She did make time to tweet a video from Africa about 50 Cent being at a basketball game. While I'm in Africa, this is August 28th, right now, exploring economic activity for Houston and the nation, I couldn't let the weekend go by without welcoming 50 Cent and the G-Unit Foundation to the 18th Congressional District for a celebrity basketball game. Really? I did a cursory check of her Twitter and I didn't see mentions of Jackson, Mississippi. I could have missed something, but I definitely didn't see it pronounced, and I believe it might not be there at all. Don't think that if things start being shown on her Twitter, on the Black Caucus page, it don't come from this video. Don't think that you cannot activate and cause a great amount of change. Don't think that these people's tweets who only get 100, go look at their tweets on the Black Caucus page, on Sheila Jackson Lee, they get 100 likes and things like that. The ability for us to affect change and create pressure is much more than you think. Now let's keep talking. I want to talk about it because there's a lot of other things we got to deal with Jackson. Let me take another call before I go to the other stuff with Jackson. Caller, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey. Hello.
What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, Tom?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, this is Leo Carney, man. How you doing, Tom?
What up, Leo? Give us your take on what's going on down there in Jackson, Mississippi, and how you have tried to use some of the teaching from Yvette Carney and myself and what you already knew to change what's going on down there.
Well, like you said, Tom, this has been an ongoing issue as far as the environmental racism in this state for some time now. And what we've been trying to do with the ADOS project here in Mississippi is to try to, bring awareness to our lawmakers and to try to spread awareness to the media to try to bring some eyes to these issues. And like I said, I've written a couple of pieces in Mississippi Free Press to try to bring a light to this. And now it's got to a point now where we've been abandoned by our state governor And here we are today, pointing fingers at both, you know, the mayor's pointing fingers, you know, the governor's pointing fingers. But at the end of the day, we don't have any solution as far as a political solution for this.
Let me ask you a question. As a Mississippian, as somebody who's worked on this project, as somebody who's worked on the ADOS project, what did you think about Sheila Jackson Lee being in Pakistan yesterday instead of Jackson?
I'm appalled. I'm appalled by that, Tom, because like I said, she is one of the chairwomen over the HR 40 campaign, and we're looking at a situation right now where we need reparative justice and Jackson, and for her to be in another country somewhere instead of being here in Jackson right now, we got people from all over the country that are galvanized to try to fix this problem. It's egregious to me, and I think it's really egregious that she's not here right now. I was just on the phone with the mayor of Flint, Michigan, and Representative Defusing, and we were talking about the same situation as far as what are we going to do with this situation in Jackson. And if the mayor of Flint can call in and get on the phone with me and talk, I think Sheila Jackson Lee can do the same thing. Let me say something,
Leo. I know you're probably busy. I want to say something to you that I haven't gotten a chance to say, but you are the vision of what me and Yvette had when we did ADOS, when we did our shows. It is the vision to galvanize people like you across the country in their communities to demand better for ADOS folks and for folks at large that are struggling, but particularly for our people, because our people have been ignored, are getting ignored, and have no voice. What you are doing in media is what needs to be done. What you are doing on the ground is what needs to be done. And thank you, brother. Any last thing you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, man, I just wanted to tell everybody, you know, if y'all want to donate, I'm working with an organization right now, basically goes out for a Green New Deal. Just log on to their website, and then you can see the drop-off site and the different places where we'll be set up to bring supplies to our residents in Jackson.
Can you tell me how to spell that? Leo, how do you spell that? Spell it out for people.
Say it again?
Spell it out for people so they can.
It's Mississippi goes out for a Green New Deal. And again, you can go on their website at ms4tsd.com.
Let me say thank you so much for calling. I know you're probably busy. I'm gonna put that up on screen for everybody. Thank you, Leo.
All right.
So we got Mississippi Go South for a Green New Deal on screen. Please support Leo down there. So here we go. We got white and black residents abandon Jackson, propelling it to water crisis. This is how media spins it. They try to make black flight that came as a result of white starvation of resources the same. So it's white and black people caused this. No. This is a long history of white folks starving out black folks and forcing them into very hard decisions to leave. White flight being in the 1970s drove one-time Jackson residents into neighborhood areas. The city's decline since then prompted better off black residents to escape Jackson's failing infrastructure. Not just water, but also roads and schools. The more recent departure further eroded the city's tax base, lessening its ability to afford repairs or apply for federal money as its infrastructure crumbled. So if black folks leave Jackson now because of not having water, is that like a third? So it's two black times that they left. So it's really the black. The reality is that this city had white flight. Shout out to Mississippi Free Press. This wasn't done by Leo. This was done by Malcolm Morrow and Aziza Wiggins. The Fearless 11, the impact of white flight and integration in Jackson, Mississippi. I cut a section out for you to hear. How white flight impacted Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson has maintained a black population of 80% at a minimum for the past decade. These statistics can be attributed to the white flight that occurred between the 1980s and early 2000s. From 1980 to 1990, the proportion of Jackson's white population dropped from 52% to 43%. Then from 1980 to 2000, nearly 35,000 white residents left the city. Do we think this would be happening if them white residents were still in the city? I think not. So they left, and they left with what makes a city: infrastructure, police, roads. They took that with them. So of course the black people are going to eventually leave too. They took the city. Whites went from making up almost half of the city's population to a little more than a quarter, the Jackson Free Press reported in 2011. The city lost 20,000 white residents from 2000 to 2010, even as it added 7,900 black residents. The trend also coincides. See, this reads very different than the Washington Post example, right? So the Washington Post was trying to tell us that there was a white flight and then a black flight with no numbers, no real numbers. But when you get on the ground and you have the Mississippi Free Press, you get a different story. We see them move out and us move in well into 2010. The trend also coincides with the expansive development of surrounding community, counties, and cities. Predominantly white cities like Flowood and Madison have exponentially grown in the past 30 years compared to smaller scale projects that remain incomplete in Jackson. In addition, the largest amount of development in Jackson takes place in Fondren in the Eastover district, where many of the city's remaining white population live. However, the 1950s and 1960s, many of the neighbors in North Jackson, West Jackson, and South Jackson were all white areas that also became mostly black neighborhoods, following patterns of white flight in subsequent decades. The white community started leaving Jackson, Mississippi to start anew in other areas quickly in the early 1970s after putting up a decades-long and often violent fight to keep black residents out of certain areas of the city and to stop school integration. So we're having a deeper conversation here. This is what we're trying to do, support the channel. We're trying to frame this discussion because a lot of people don't know nothing about Jackson and they don't know nothing about Mississippi. So they thinking about this thing without understanding the context. Federal judge seizes, and this article is from July 2022. This is not old. Federal judge seizes control of Mississippi jail after citing severely deficient conditions. Jackson, Mississippi, AP. A federal judge has seized control of a Mississippi jail after citing severely deficient conditions at the facility. Reeves wrote in his decision that the facility staffing level are particularly egregious. Persistent shortcomings in staffing and supervision embolden gangs and encourage the prevalent circulation of contraband, including narcotics and weapons, Reeves wrote. Jail staffs continue to receive inadequate training regarding use of force, such as use of tasers. So they're in there tasing black folks. But while that's happening, we have the Brett Favre issue. For those who are not familiar, Brett Favre got paid for speeches in Mississippi, millions of dollars that he never did. He ended up having to return the money, but he didn't return all of it. The nation's poorest state used welfare money to pay Brett Favre for speeches he never made. The state auditor says $70 million in federal welfare funds went to Favre, a volleyball complex, and a former pro wrestler in a scandal that has rocked Mississippi. What if that money was used in Jackson? Would people have water? 150,000 black folks. But that didn't stop the state of Mississippi from paying Favre $1.1 million in 2017 and 2018 to make motivational speeches out of federal welfare funds intended for needy families. The Mississippi State Auditor said Favre never gave the speeches and demanded the money back with interest. So he didn't get his speeches. He didn't go to jail for this. And I believe he returned the money without the interest. Favre has repaid the fees, though not the $228,000 in interest the auditor also demanded. But the revelation by the auditor that $70 million in TANF welfare funds was doled out to a multimillionaire athlete, a professional wrestler, and a horse farm, and a volleyball complex are at the heart of a scandal that has rocked the nation's poor. So there's a context here. We're having a discussion today. We're talking about Sheila Jackson Lee. We're talking about Kamala Harris. We're talking about ADOS and the reparative justice movement. We're talking about the reality of how we got here with Jackson. Far too many people don't understand the narrative. They don't understand how the truth happened, how they're avoiding tap water in Jackson, and it could have been avoided. This is Tone Talks. Please go to tonetalks.org to subscribe or donate. Share this video. Thank you so much for tuning in.